We're in Bruce's fish room, and I got to tell you that when we left Disc Madness last fishing trip about a month ago, roughly, right?
Yeah.
I was very surprised. I don't know why I was surprised that his bill came up to over $1,000 for 16 bags of fish.
Yep.
Okay, and so I came down here expecting that all these tanks would be filled with fish, and he just got through telling me that, as we're going to see in a minute, a number of the tanks don't have any fish in them yet. So tell me, what was the plan? Where did you put all this fish?
In the two 29-gallon tanks. Plus I added a lot of fish to the 36-gallon where there's been some attrition over time.
Okay, so some of them ended up upstairs, as it were.
Right.
And so I'm zooming in on the 29 at the end of the room here, and I can see the... Okay, go ahead and describe what you've done with this tank.
Well, it's got the 4 angels. There's 6 Ramirezi, 2 pearl gouramis, and 4 of the Corridor's catfish.
And you and I both opted for the smaller rams, which were, I think, $12.95 a piece, as opposed to, they actually pointed out that they had larger ones for something like $18 a piece.
Yeah, something like that.
I felt would grow into them. So
Yeah.
how are they doing, Bruce?
They're doing fine.
They're looking good.
Oh yeah.
They're really looking good.
Yeah, the males are bantering with each other.
I can see that right over here in the left-hand side of that
Yeah,
tank.
that's right.
I think I've got a pair. I don't know, have you figured out what you've got there in terms of males and females?
I had requested 2 males and 4 females, but I'm not sure if that came out. They're still a little immature, so can't positively determine the sex. But they do go back and forth with each other, which is an indication the males will do that.
Yeah. And your plants are doing well too.
Oh yeah.
And Amazon is growing nicely. It's taking a real nice centerpiece in that tank.
And it's got the reproduction.
Some babies hanging off it?
Yeah.
How do you make out with that? Do you ever get the babies actually plant and grow into their own plants, or do
Yeah, usually they do.
Do they? Okay,
Yeah.
I haven't been as successful with that. I don't know why not.
When you take them off, do they have roots on them already?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
But
Still don't make it? That's unusual.
I haven't seen any in a long time. Let me put it that way. And
all right.
some of them seem to die off. And when I cut them off and put them down there, I lose track of them. So maybe some of the Amazons I've got are those babies grown up, and I just forgot about it.
Oh, I see.
That could be. And how about the Corys? Which Corys did you get? Were those the
That's
Sturvey?
the July.
Oh, you got the July. Okay.
Yeah, and I lost 3 of those. That's the only fish I lost out of the downstairs tanks. But apparently they had thrown in an extra on that as well, because I still have 4 left, and 3 of them died.
Huh. That's surprising.
So,
They
I
usually do.
only paid for 6, but they, like they said, some of the fish, do we mind if they throw a few extras in? I said no, that'd be fine.
I think they were very pleased to have you as a customer that day with that big a bill. They certainly gave us a lot of undivided attention, didn't they?
Oh yeah, they did.
They really did a nice job. That Disc Madness. What town is that, Bruce? Do you remember?
I think it's Union.
Okay, Union, New Jersey. So we always try to give when they give us good service, we try to give them good words on our videos,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, well, they got good stuff there. That's for sure.
All right, I'm going to.
Top quality.
Now this is the second 29-gallon.
Right.
They've got 6 10-gallons and 2 29s, so this is the second one. Quite a bit more fish in this particular tank, I see.
Yeah, there are. There's black neons, glow light tetras, black phantom tetras. Trying to think what there's catfish again, some starus, and kuliloches. So it's there's a little more variety in this tank than there is the other tank.
Now this Derby catfish, they did better for you in terms of.
Didn't lose any of them.
Yeah, they seem to be hardier. At least that's been my experience.
Well, usually the Julies do well also. I was surprised when some of them died.
Tank looks good. So what kind of temperature are you keeping this at? I'm looking at it over here.
About 80 degrees.
Okay, that's high. I'm in the mid 70s myself.
Well, that's good also.
Yeah. And I see a coolie loach in there. Did you get a couple coolie loaches?
6.
6 of them. That's it. Nice school. Tank looks good. And what's that plant that's growing up across the tank and up to the top?
It's a type of lily plant.
That looks great.
Yeah.
And this is a strange looking one here. What's that?
I forget the name of that one.
That's interesting, huh? You've got some different kind of plants than I normally see in tanks.
Yeah.
But it looks good. But look at the fish hanging out over here on the right hand side. I wonder why they stay so...
Well, I think they've got more cover with the plants. So
Okay.
they're more secure.
Huh. I mean, they've got so much space up there on the left that they don't seem to use. They're certainly getting along just fine together.
Yeah.
Looking good,
If
Bruce.
we stayed in a room for 10 minutes, they'd probably calm down and...
Oh, you think the movement might be doing it?
No, not necessarily the movement, but
See what happens when I turn the light out, because then we're sort of hidden a little bit.
yeah. They just feel, I think, a little more secure within the plant life.
I can't really tell the difference. The camera
No.
seems to be adjusting. All right, I'm going to just scan down the rest of these, and then we're going to talk about them in a minute. There's 1, there's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And so when we last left off, we were at this tank here, this 10-gallon, and the plants have really grown out in this one. And remind me again, you had 6 really tiny fish.
Yeah.
What were they again?
They're a type of Baden fish.
Okay.
These have a specific name, but
I see one down in the front here. This is hard because
Yeah.
although in the last video it came out pretty good.
the males only get to 1.2 inches. And if I put other fish in there, they would have trouble competing with the others for food. And some of the books now that I've read up on them say that they will eat only live food, and pretty much that's been the case with them.
Well, these are the ones you were feeding those worms that you got, right?
Microworms.
Microworms.
Yeah, I'm going to get some out and feed them that while we're,
How's that experiment working out for you?
very well. The first time I've grown the microworms, and they seem to be quite hardy.
Huh, interesting. And
I'll
so
show
the
you.
microworms are small enough that these tiny, tiny fish actually eat
The
them.
microworms, when I put them in the tank, all you're going to see is a cloud.
Okay, right, that's how tiny they are.
Yeah,
Now, is there any fish in the next tank down?
no,
So this is the last one with fish in it at this
that's
point.
right. Yeah.
We'll have to visit those other tanks upstairs.
That's right. Scarlet Baden is what they call these.
All right. And again, they're
And
so
they
small.
they do get very colorful as they mature. I mean, they're not full size yet, but some of them are showing some pretty good color. They really stand out. And they're very curious fish.
Huh.
They don't school, and they seem to, the males seem to battle with each other.
Interesting. Interesting. Well, I'm just going to move the camera down quickly to capture the plant growth that's happened in these tanks.
This tank has really exploded.
Right, that second one.
Yeah.
And what kind of plants do you have in there? I mean,
Well,
they're obvious,
the
but
major plant is the Myriophyllum, which is what you gave me.
and look how well it's doing too.
Yeah. And there's some red Myriophyllum there too. All the way to the left-hand side.
Well, let me just come on down here and see if we can focus on one at a time. And so this is the third tank. I'll call it tank number 3. A little bit cloudy because there's no life in it.
Those 3, and this one was until about a week ago also.
So what changed?
I'm
Any
not
idea?
sure. Probably something in the chemistry that changed things up.
So this one is a little bit cloudy, but plants are doing well.
Yeah, they are.
And we come on down to the next one. We see some of that
And
red.
here's an interesting plant here. It's a type of moss. There's some of it free floating up there.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
and it has the first part of its name is flame. And if you look over in this tank, there's a small bit of it in this tank that's growing the way it's supposed to. It looks like flames growing up. But you have to look really close. It's out near the front. And it's another one of those mossy plants, but that's the only tank that it seems to have been growing the way that it's supposed to.
Interesting that the tanks seem to be identical and yet have different growing out type situations, don't they?
They do, yes.
And so the next one down, and that's the red kabamba, is it, that I'm looking at here?
Yeah, that's right.
And so that's a pretty plant. I really like that when it grows up. And you've got quite a few segments of it. 1, 2, 3, 4, about 6 or 7. I usually put that in a bunch plant. But what do you got going on in your sponge filter back there?
Oh, that's just some algae growing.
Okay, it almost looks like one of those moss balls.
I know.
But it's not.
No.
Okay, interesting. And then I'm just moving down to what I'll call the fifth tank. And that one's almost clear. I mean, it's clearer than these other two that we just saw. And then the last one is crystal clear.
That's right.
So,
I don't know what the differences would be because I treat them all the same way.
right.
I use plant food with them. I use the CO2, and they all get the same amount of nutrition. So
Yeah.
why some are a little bit cloudy and some are totally clear?
That one is
I really
crystal
can't say.
clear. I mean,
Yeah, it
it
is.
couldn't be any clearer if you tried.
Well, this is the clearest one of the 10s, I think.
Well, I would say this one down here is the clearest one
Yeah,
now.
right.
But,
They have more open space to see the water in that one.
I'm trying to give our viewers a sense of the room itself. And so, like I said, they got the 229s, one down the end, one down the end of the row here, and then the 610s, which are going to be populated out in the future. I like your red plant here, Bruce. This, the leaves on this particular plant,
I know, it's nice.
gorgeous,
I
gorgeous.
don't even remember what the name of that one was.
Yeah, I don't either, but it's growing nicely, and it's
Yeah.
love the
Can
color.
you see the
of
plant just to the right of it?
that little hairy one.
Hair grass?
Yeah.
I have much trouble in getting that to grow. I don't know why. Always have over the years. That might be that it requires harder water.
Oh, okay, that could be. Never.
Harder water or
Now, have you analyzed the chemistry of your water at all? Can you talk about whether it's hard,
no,
soft,
I haven't
whatever?
done much with it. I
Okay.
know my water parameters are fairly good, but probably for some plants or fish, it's not what they would prefer to have.
Right, right. I'm looking, and you have heaters in the tanks, don't you? I wondered if you were keeping the temperature constant by room temperature as opposed to individual
That was
heaters.
my original intent,
Yeah? What changed?
but well, you can see those two heaters over there. I'm not using either one of them.
Oh, okay.
The one will shut itself off at a certain point after, there's a danger I get some fire.
Okay.
And it was inexpensive, which was nice. But I also found that with that feature where it shuts itself off when it gets too hot, that was not good, because then when it did come back on again a day or two later, it came on and it registered, it was set for 90 degrees, and that's not the temperature I had it set for.
Huh. Is it maybe that you've got too high a wattage for the 10-gallon tank? That
I'm talking about the room heaters.
Oh, the room heater. Oh, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, now I got you. Huh. That's interesting. Well, so much for that plan, huh? But you've got it backed up with heaters.
Well, it seems like the heat from the tanks is enough to keep the room plenty warm.
Oh, that's
Because
true.
it is a small room, and it was very well insulated when I put it together.
And so this room was created specifically for your fish. This was not down here before he started.
No, that's right.
And so the wiring and everything is set up behind it for each
Yes,
tank
that's right.
on the wall. And what are the dimensions of the room, Bruce? Rough.
I think it's about 15 by 8.
Okay, so it's long but narrow room, and he's got beautiful cabinet work. I have to show you the cabinet work because it's gorgeous, and I know he spent quite a bit of money on the cabinet doors themselves. And your carpenter did a great job. You said he designed each of these as opposed to...
That's right.
Wow, it looks beautiful.
He's a handyman, but I think he's more than a handyman.
I'd say he's an artist.
He's Polish, but he's very thorough.
Okay. Now, one other question I had for you, and then we'll go upstairs, and that is, you're using the CO2. I've been using the CO2, which you introduced me to, the liquid CO2.
Right.
And also the leaf zone on a weekly basis,
Yeah.
the CO2 every day.
Well, I use more than the leaf zone. I use a different additive for the tank every day.
Okay. So talk a little bit about your system.
Well, let me show you what I've got here.
Uh-oh. You got cases of it, huh?
Open that door a little more, yeah. Here's the different materials that I feed the plants. And every day it's a different source. There's a flourish, which is a mix of different nutrients. Then there's the iron.
Okay, so one's potassium, one's iron.
This is the trace elements.
All right.
Flourish gets used twice a week. Iron gets used twice a week. And the potassium gets used twice a week
All right.
on an alternating basis. I think that's probably why the plants do so well.
Well, I have to admit, I'm becoming more and more aware, because our finances get a little bit tighter at home, to be honest about it, that my supply of CO2 and a little bit of leaf zone on almost a monthly basis now is running almost $100. I mean, $78 I think is the last one I saw.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things I was saying, Jesus, am I spending too much money on my tanks at this point? And of course, I would say no, it's fine. But I got to be aware of that in our family budget. And so
Sure.
do you have any idea what you're spending on the chemistry of your...
I'm sure mine is somewhat more than yours.
Yeah,
I would guess it maybe 150 a month
okay.
on the plants.
And we're
For
talking...
what I feed them.
Right, and so we're talking 6 10-gallons down here, 2 29s, and then 4 tanks upstairs.
Right.
Both of which are in the 40-gallon, 50-gallon range, a couple of them. So,
Well, they go from 10 gallon to 29 to 38 to 55.
so we've got 6 to 8 and 4, 12 tanks, and 150, so it's $10 a month. I
Yeah.
guess that's within reason. But anyway, so what are your plans for these tanks that don't have any fish yet? What are your thoughts?
I'm looking for individual small fish, for the most part, that can be kept only by themselves, because they'd have to compete too much with other fish in the tank.
So we're
No.
talking about single species setups in each tank. Now,
Probably.
where are you planning to do that? Are you looking at local fish stores, or are you looking online? Have you
No,
bought
probably
anything
not.
online?
I'm probably going to have to go online. For the kind of stuff that I want, there aren't many fish stores that would carry it.
Okay. Any ideas of some species you'd mentioned to our viewers?
Well, one of the varieties was a type of Danio, but I forget the name of it offhand. And it's again a very small fish, so it wouldn't be able to compete with other fish in the tank.
Now, are we going to have catfish in every tank?
Oh yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Be at least 2 cats in every tank.
Well, I would say that you're getting into the colder season, so it's something we're probably going to move on soon before we get into the sub-freezing temperatures on a regular basis.
More than likely.
Yeah.
Or I may have to hold off on some varieties because I don't want to take a gambit on trying to get them when the weather is really cold, because there's always a chance of them getting exposed to extreme cold.
And I know that some of the shippers, they only ship certain days of the week, so you get it within a
right.
day. And they do have some heating stuff that they put in the box if you pay
Yes,
extra.
they do. That's right.
Right.
And they check the temperature out across the country where they know the shipments
Oh, do
will
they?
be going. Oh yeah.
Oh, Wow.
Yeah, some days if it's too cold, part of the trip they just won't ship.
Oh, I didn't know that.
You might
Well,
have to wait till the following week or whatever.
well, that's going to be a follow-on story as we get some experience with online, because you've never done online fish before, right?
Until I got these
Oh,
batters.
the baddest. So we're into
That's the first ones I bought.
Okay.
And
Well,
I ordered 6. One died en route, and I got credit for it.
okay.
So you know, so far it's been positive, but it is expensive.
Yep. Well, for a guy who used to own his own fish store, and in later stage of life where you're rich and can afford this, right? it's amazing how
Rich
different
is
stages of our life we can do things
Yeah.
differently, right?
Rich is a relative term.
Yes, it is. To be able to have a hobby. All right, you're not buying season tickets at the Eagles games, right?
Right.
Instead, you got fish.
Yeah.
I understand that. I understand that.
Well, before we leave downstairs area,
Go ahead.
let me show you where I'm growing the microworms.
Okay.
And I'll feed some to these batting fish.
All right. Let me see if I can follow you out. I don't know if it's going to show up or not. If it doesn't, I'll just edit it out. But for right now, I'm going to follow you out into the darkened area so that we can see what
I got
you're
some
doing.
more light out here I can put on.
Okay.
I told her when it comes to talking, I'm the sweetest sweet talker in the world. Well, she said you better start talking if you want me to be your girl. And she said,
Go Jimmy, go! Go Jimmy, go!
well, I talked her off the floor when she said,
Go Jimmy, go!
I told her when it comes to dancing, I'm the best young dancer in the land. Well, she looked at me with a comes to talking, I'm the sweetest